To this live stream. It'll just be me. Hmm. I'll give it a minute. Let somebody show up first.
I thought you said there will be no one.
Now you're in the live stream. Yeah, I'm live right now. I'm just giving it a minute before I start talking about what I want to talk about. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and go here. For those who come in and watch this even later on after it's up, it doesn't matter. I know it's early Saturday morning for some places, and still early. It's not too late where I'm at, but just the same, here I am. I wanted to talk about, I've everybody pretty much knows already that power and greed absolutely corrupt the human mind. Well, there's something that nobody ever acknowledges that's just as bad as power and greed, and that's called ego. Our ability to run on our ego to inflate ourselves, okay? So you see what I'm putting up here, okay? The average American thinks they're smarter than the average American. That is correct. In today's society, when you look around you, this is what you see going on all the time, and that's ego. You should see I got a picture of an eagle down there in the corner. Okay? Okay, and a fascinating study into self perception has found that 55% of Americans think they are more intelligent than the average American. Okay? And sort of a self defeating status. That, in other words, means the average American thinks they're smarter than the average American. This is correct. This is so correct. I've watched this so many times. And so, and people like to say, well, they have ego. They're running on their ego. Their ego. Well, now, I don't know that ego's the proper word for it, okay? But I want to go ahead and bring this topic up because I think it needs to be talked about. Because we already all know that power corrupts the human mind. Okay, you give people power over other people and their head swells up and their head swells up, they become corrupt, they do unto others that they don't want done unto themselves. They begin to believe there's something they're not because they're hiked into a position in their head, okay, because they're given a power position that have power over other people. They let it go to their head, and that really does. It corrupts a lot of people. Of course, it's not all people straight across the board, but it does corrupt a lot of people. Okay? And then we have greed. And we've already seen how the wealthy act, how they look down at people that are not as wealthy as them, how they look down on others, how even their children go to school and look down on the others in school because they have allowed what? They have allowed that to attack their brains. Okay, and so what are they doing? They're doing exactly that. It's the same thing. They put themselves right on up there, didn't they? Well, ego does the same thing. You can get somebody up here online speaking out about NWO, whatever the topic is, and maybe they have a lot of knowledge in a certain area that they don't see other people or they don't perceive to look around and they see other people talking about, right? Okay, or they get a video that goes viral. Oh my God. And they're running on ego. It lets their head swell up. See, ego allows your head to swell up just like greed and power lets your head swell up. Well, I understand that it's early in the morning. This video will probably go up later on after the live stream's over. It's Saturday morning. I'm sure most of the sheep were out there partying last night and they're all in bed, right? Then, of course, we got different time zones, depending on where you're at, depending on where I'm at, might depend on what time it is where you're at. Where I'm at, it's like just almost 9 o'clock a.m. in the morning. So I'm sure there's a lot of people still in bed, and here I am up doing a live stream, right? That's why there's probably only 2 views. But I'm not worried about that. This topic's actually pretty important, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've been really contemplating on doing something and saying something about this, and I decided yesterday that, yeah, I'm going to do this because it needs to be spoke about. And the main reason I've got the name, money, power, and greed is because, and an ego, is because ego is directly linked to power and greed. Ego, when a person's running around running on ego, and you see this all the way through society, don't you? Somebody gets a position on a job and their ego fucking inflates. They begin to believe they're smarter than somebody else, they're above somebody else. They hike themselves in their own brain to a level above other people that they're not. And then they start treating other people this way, and sometimes they think they're slick. They really do. They'll think that you're dumb because they've already convinced themselves they're smarter than you. They've already convinced themselves that they have more knowledge than you. They're smarter than you, they have more knowledge than you, and then they start perceiving you as dumb, and then they play you for dumb. There's nothing more that burns me up and pisses me off when people play other people for dumb. Most of the time when somebody else is playing somebody else for dumb, their ego's flying so high, their head's swollen so up that they can't even see what they're doing themselves. And meanwhile, they're telling on themselves, and the person they're treating as dumb sees right through them, knows what they're doing, and it does anger people. When you treat somebody that way, think because your ego's swollen up. Now, do you see why I wanted to talk about this? Because power absolutely corrupts the human mind when you're given a position of power over other people. Greed, when you have too much wealth, you hike yourself to the next level above other people. You look down on people that ain't got as much monetary gain as you have, and you think you're better than them, smarter than them. See, there you go. It's no different than when we're speaking out about the truth. And the hypocritical thing about this is the majority of the people that I watch online that are running on ego, this is their mentality. They already believe they know more than you. They're not wrong. And if you call them on a wrong, they'll be offended by you and say they're not wrong, even when they know clearly they're wrong. And the majority of them are hypocrites. You'll watch them double speak out both sides of their mouth. They'll get caught lying. And of course, their ego will inflate them, and they will come up here. There's a bunch of stuff I could use when I'm doing these live streams. Like, you see, I got this picture, the small little picture up in your corner right there of the average American. Thinks they're smarter than the average American. I actually screen cropped that from a news article online. You see, I got a picture of an eagle in the bottom corner, and then you see what I've got wrote right there that I didn't write right there. I screen captured that too. Blew it up a little bit and put it in here. Why did I do that? Because that's all related to greed and power and ego. They're all one and the same, and you see, even the rich people, all you got to do is read it and really think about it, and it's so in your face. And it does disgust me because I watch people with these behaviors, all because their ego has swollen up. The facts of life is like this. I may not be very good at something, and you might be outstandingly good at it. But then there's something you're not very good at or don't know nothing about, and I guarantee there is, that I might be excellent at. So do you see how you could be good in one area that I'm not at? And I could be good in an area that you're not good at. This is human nature. This is the way it is in real life. Straight across the board, man. But see, people have lost their minds when their ego flates up. They forget all about that. And they begin to believe they know more than other people, that are more intelligent than other people. And as I was saying a minute ago, with this particular program I'm using right now, you can get different pictures and stuff. There's pictures out there, there's stuff that's been set up for this program where I could put myself inside a TV set. I refuse to do it. I'm not going to do it. Because for me to give myself a big fancy background and a TV set there and I'm in the TV set, that's ego. No lie, that's ego. You know, ego, you go around, you tell people, I'm not here for fame. I don't care about views. I don't care about how many people are watching me. Okay? You'll go around, you tell people this. I don't, I ain't got thousands of dollars. You see I'm real. My background is where I'm at. Okay? And then on the other hand, something will come up and this person will see somebody do something and get pissed at them and say, oh, because maybe they're friends with them. And they'll say things, that's stupid. They'll tell them, well, why did you say that? People might think then you'll say to them, I thought you said that you don't care what people think about you. Now you're worried about people might get angry because of something I said at you. Well, if you didn't care what people thought about you, why would you worry about what somebody thought about you? See, that's double speaking out both ends of mouths. Hypocrites, see, becoming a hypocrite. This is what ego does for you. Yes, this is exactly what ego does for you. I've seen this so many times. I've watched this so many times. As a matter of fact, I've experienced this probably 5 times in 10 years, my own self, from people that I associate with. This behavior. Because they let their ego go ahead of themselves. Okay, and part of that comes when they get a viral video. Part of it becomes because they believe there's something or not, because they've allowed something they know to inflate their thinking. And once ego takes over and your thinking gets inflated, you don't think clearly anymore. You really don't. Because now you start looking down on other people. You really do. You look down on somebody because you have knowledge this person doesn't, but yet that person you're looking down on most likely has knowledge you don't got. But then you won't want to recognize that because you can't be wrong because you're ego. I've watched people, now this is funny. I had a friend who had this problem with ego, and he didn't want to be wrong on anything, and we were shooting darts. We had a dartboard and we were shooting darts. And when he got a bad score in the game, he ran up and tried to hurry up and grab the dart and move it and put it where he wanted it. Then, right after he done this, right in front of everybody, denies doing it because it was getting to him. His ego was inflated, and you could definitely see it in him the way he acted and what he done. That he had a high ego. His ego was just and it's just people who run on ego. I run virtually on no ego. I always have. I don't like ego because I don't believe that I'm smarter than somebody else. I don't let my mind go to that next level. I stop myself right there because I've always understood, always my whole life, that I have talents that I'm really good at, that you may not be good at, but you got talents that you're going to be good at that I'm no good at all. I've always understood that. And ego don't recognize that. Ego says, oh, I know more than this person in this area. Oh, oh, look, my video went viral. Oh, and your head swells up. It becomes like a balloon. It's sort of like the brown noser on a job. You know that guy or girl that walks around on the job with their nose firmly parked in their boss's, you know what, offer a position. And then if they eventually get a position, you watch them. Their head swells up. They start treating everybody under them like dirt. They begin to believe there's something they're not. I witnessed this many times in my life on jobs. One of the most pathetic cases was a man named Glenn, okay, who got a position as a property manager when I was doing remodels. And he used to be up there doing remodels just like me. He was no different than me. He went from home to home, working in the home, doing the repairs and stuff. And he got this position as the property manager, which means he was everybody's boss that was out there in the field working on houses. His head swelled up. He walked around with his chest popped out. He never walked this way before. And now he was walking around literally with his chest popped out and his shoulders drawn back. It was absolutely pathetic. It was disgusting. It was sickening. And his head swelled up so bad. And he was treating everybody like dirt. Him and I had a few words and he fired me. That was funnier than hell. And I threw all of his supplies in the middle of the parking lot and I left. He never hurt me because I had lots of work I did on the side, so I just sat on with my other work, going remodel to remodel, house to house. Never bothered me. Didn't really lose a penny on it. And about 6, 7 months later, I was at a friend's house, my working partner's house, and he says, "Bill," and I says, "What?" And he says, "I got a question to ask you. You don't have to, but." And he started smirking, and I was, "What's that?" And he says, "Glenn wants to know if you would consider coming back to work." After he fired me. It's like 6, 7 months later. He says, "Name your price, and that's what he'll pay you. But he'd appreciate it if you'd come back to work." And then Jay started laughing. And he says, "You know, I hired 3 other people to replace you, and he couldn't find nobody that had the skills you have." He says, "This person was good at this area, that area, but didn't know this, didn't know that." And I started laughing my ass off. I couldn't help it. I just started laughing my ass off. So, anyhow, I took him up on it, but I didn't start right away because I had other jobs I was finishing up. So I says, "Well, as soon as I finish this job and this job, then I'll come over and I'll talk to him." So that's what I did. I don't know, maybe about a month and a half later or whatever, I went over there when I finished up the 2 jobs I was in the middle of. And, oh yeah, he was the nicest guy in the world. He didn't have his chest stuck out no more. He was so happy to see me. And I was like, uh-huh. But see, this is the problem. He was a brown noser. He got a position. His head swelled up. See, ego. This is why I don't run on ego. And if you watch people's behavior, even here online, you'll pick up when somebody's running on ego. And if they're running on ego, then the only thing I can tell you is with these people, you have to be careful and watch them because people who have ego need to constantly be checking themselves. No lie. If you're running on ego, you better be doing self checks on your own self and your own behavior and adjusting that behavior because you'll become a hypocrite real fast. How many hypocrites have we saw in the truth movement? I'll tell you what. In the so-called truth movement, I've seen one hell of a lot of hypocrites. And that's because these people are running on ego. Ego corrupts the human mind just like power and greed does. It really does. And people you don't never hear anybody talking about that. What ego does to the human mind. And people should be bringing that up. These people running on ego need to be called out. When they start lying, people need to go the other way. Because people who run on ego will lie to you. Oh, yes, they will. They will claim to be honest. They will tell lots of truth. They'll be like Alex Jones. They'll be like David Icke. They'll be just like the other shills that they're complaining about. They'll point their finger at the shills and say how the shills will report 70% truth, and then they'll lie to you, which is true. They're not lying to you when you tell you this. But because of their ego, they wind up doing the very same thing. They really do. They do the very thing that they complain about the shield doing, and they do it themselves. Why? Because they don't check themselves. They allow their ego to flate up. And once you allow your ego to flate up, what you do is in your mind, you place yourself in a position above other people. And you convince yourself when you start really truly believing that you're smarter and better than other people. And most of these people will never admit to it in a million years. They will bold-facedly lie to you. But when they're talking to you, they'll treat you like blah, 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 and they'll bold-facedly lie to you. And as soon as they hang up, and sometimes they'll even cut you short. You'll be talking and they'll just cut you short. I got to go. And they really didn't have to go. It's because their ego is going pink, 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 swelling. You know, like if you just smashed your finger in a door. The throbbing, the swelling, the throbbing. Well, their ego's making them throb. And they're throbbing while they're talking to you. But they're not going to tell you that. Because they believe they're so much smarter than you because they've convinced themselves that they are. So now they're getting to a point where I know I'm too good for this person, so I really don't want to associate with them very much because I am so intelligent, you know. Yes. I'm just so smart. You know, I'm right next to God. I'm so intelligent. This is what ego does for you. But you're not next to God. You're not so smart. You're not smarter than. Because you're smarter in one area than somebody else doesn't mean jack squat. Because I guarantee you, they're going to be smarter in areas you're not. And you wouldn't appreciate them hiking themselves up and their heads swelling and looking down on you. Because see, it's funny. I mean, this is funny as hell. I actually watched two people with ego. The both of them that were running on ego. Each one thought they were smarter than the other. And the one even thought that the other person already knew that he was smarter than the other person. That other person already knew that guy knows I am so intelligent they would never try that with me because they already know how smart I am. Okay? That's how far it went. Their head was so swollen that they actually believed that somebody else knew how smart they was that was also running on ego. And you know the funniest thing of all about that is both of them were running on ego and both of them believed they were smarter than the other. This is what you call the battle of the dummies. That's what I want to call that. I call that the battle of the dummies. Because in reality, they're both complete idiots. See, this is why I don't believe in ego and I don't run on ego. I never have. Because you have to constantly check yourself then, or you become a hypocrite. You become exactly what you complain about others doing. You will complain about others doing it while you're doing it yourself. Then you'll make up some lousy ass excuse and say, well, I know I shouldn't, yeah. Well, I know I'm being a hypocrite, but, and then you'll come up with, but, and then you'll make an excuse up to cover your ass, and there is no excuse. That's why you won't find me doing live streams. Like, see this live stream you see today? You see stuff that I put in here that I wanted you to see, but when you're looking at me, I'm not on no TV set, am I? No, I'm not even most of the picture, am I? No. I don't have no fancy studio in my background, no. My background is showing you the United States of fucked up Nazi Germany. Excuse my language. okay, and you see the picture of the eagle. You see the top right here from that article, okay, and then you see the statement that was underneath that very same article next to it, okay, that a fascinating study into self-perception has found that 55% of Americans think they're more intelligent than the average American. There you go. See, then and now you understand why I put that stuff in here, because it all goes into what I'm talking about, every last bit of it. And that statement's not wrong. I witness it all the time. And sometimes it just becomes absolutely ridiculous, okay? It really does. And these people just can't perceive for the life of them how it's no different than power and greed, how it corrupts their thinking, how they become non-trustworthy themselves, you know? And their ego, when you deflate their ego, they'll be all depressed and down and mad and angry. Yeah, no lie. If you deflate somebody's ego that's running on ego, they will become bitterly angry with you. Then they will become depressed and down in the dumps and personally bothered by it. What they should do is just turn off their own ego, because it would stop them from becoming like the very people they complain about. But you watch it all the time, man. You watch it with the incels, don't you? The incels complain about another incel doing wrong behavior onto them, and then they turn around and you watch them, they're going out there and doing the very thing to some other incel that they're complaining about happening to them. Same thing. The same exact thing. Hypocrites, psychopaths, narcissists, nut jobs. I don't like ego. I never have. Because ego leads to corruption, just like power and greed. It leads to corruption. So the real things that corrupts the human mind, we all know that power absolutely corrupts the human mind. We all know that greed absolutely corrupts the human mind. And you should all know that ego actually corrupts the human mind as well. But that's the unspoken thing, isn't it? Is that the taboo topic? Would me talking about ego be taboo? I think that somebody would probably want to say that's taboo, that I shouldn't be talking about that. Because they don't want you knowing that it corrupts their mind just the same as power and greed does. But it don't take a rocket scientist to figure that out and see it. It really doesn't. That's why you'll never find me up here on YouTube doing a live stream with myself inside a TV set. Because I don't run on ego. I'm not going to tell you I care about numbers. I don't care about numbers and then complain about my numbers. Whoever sees my stuff sees my stuff. I understood it was Saturday morning where I'm at, and the views would probably be low when I came up here. But I really don't care, because other people come on the channel, they'll eventually see this. And I can still talk about this in another live stream. I didn't plan on staying up here very long anyhow, Saturday morning. Who knows, maybe I'll come up with another live stream maybe later tonight, this evening or this afternoon, when there's more people up. But I want to get this out just in case I don't. That way I've actually talked about it, because I've had this on my mind for a while. To mention this, to talk about this for a little bit, and I just haven't done it. And so today I decided, let's just do this and get it over with. And I'll probably be talking about it more. Because people need to understand that power and greed absolutely corrupt the human mind. They need to understand, and so does ego. When they're running on ego, they're no different than the rich people that look down on other people. They're no different than the elite looking down on other people. You know, the powers to be. When you run on ego, you become just like the very people you complain about. And most people don't got no common sense to figure that out. How it absolutely corrupts them. And then they start showing you all the signs. And then you get to watch this clown show of this flated head over here and this flated head over here, both trying to outdo the other. Like it's a game, it's an arena, it's a sport, it's a challenge. And you'll watch these two idiots that this idiot knows he's smarter than this idiot, and the other idiot knows he's smarter than that idiot. And you watch these two dummies have war with each other that I'm smarter than you, and I'm smarter than you, and I'm smarter than you. And it's like a couple of little kids in a playground. It's ridiculous. And then they can't perceive for the life of them what they're really doing. Because it doesn't click. It doesn't go into their head. They don't acknowledge it. They're unaware of it. Okay, they really are. And this is ego, man. So, you know, that's why I don't run on ego. And the other thing that ego does is you get people that confuse ego for care. You know how our society has confused love with sex? And they think sex is love? You know how that works, right? And we've seen our society running on lust and thinking lust is love when they're not and never have been. Well, ego and care become confused the same way. Somebody's got ego, and people want to confuse that and say, well, that's because they care. That's not care. Ego is not care. Care is when you care as much about somebody you've never met in your life as you do your own self. Care is about when you want what's right for everybody unto all. Care doesn't recognize double standards. Care doesn't recognize, well, because it's personal, I'm not talking about that because I actually do care what others think about me, even though I tell them all I don't. That's ego. See, care is what I've had my whole life. I help people out just to help people out because I want to help people out. Because I really care what's going on in this world from my heart. Sincere, I don't want any different for me than I do for everybody around me. I don't put myself up to that next level and look down on somebody else. I'm not going to turn my head to millions of men who are living TFL and going through the freaking ringer of what we know is going on in society, which most truthers will do in a heartbeat. They will not talk about TFL, incel, men going their own way, the genders. They will run from that. They will stay as far away from it as they can. They will say, well, yeah, I see it's going on and I know it's part of NWO, but I'm not going to fight that part of the war. I'm staying away from that. I'm only going to talk about the false flags. I'm only going to talk about the Masons. I'm only going to talk about the chemtrails. I'm only going to talk about the flat earth. And on and on and on. But they won't touch the manosphere, will they? Even when they'll say, no, I see it. I do understand it's social engineering, and I understand it's the Fabians, and I understand it's this, and I can show you where it came from. So I know the problem's real. I know it's really going on, but guess what? I don't give a shit about that problem. That can go on. That's what you're seeing happening, ain't you? Yep. That problem can just keep going on, huh? Yep. It's no different than if you make a statement that people who sit back and watch evil being done are just as evil themselves and should be held accountable for not doing something to stop that evil. All right? Well, doesn't that apply for these truthers who turn their head to the manosphere then? Yes, that does. So, in other words, you're going to sit back and you're going to watch and know that millions of men are being dumped on every single day, thanks to social engineering and NWO. But you're not going to say a thing about that. You don't care about that. That's too personal for you. You're only going to fight against the false flags or the flat earth or the Masons or the whatever you've chose to fight against. And you could care less about that. Then you're not in this whole fight for the whole fight. You're not in this war to fight all evil. You think it's a buffet line. You think that you can just pick out what truth you want to believe, and even if it's honest God's truth, you could just disregard it. Or you can just go through the buffet line and pick out what part of the war you're going to fight, and who cares about that corruption? That corruption can stay in place for all I care. Well, then why would we want to care about anything you care about? See, when you have real care, you care about everybody equally. And you don't go with skin color, you don't go with race, you don't go with people's beliefs because you care. And when you want corruption stopped, you want to stop straight across the board all the way. You're not going to pick out this side or that side. But if you don't have care, then it's very easy for you to pick out what side you want and to disregard the rest, isn't it? It becomes a sport, it becomes an arena, it becomes a competition. And people do confuse ego and care, as they think that care is the same as ego. Ego is the same as care. That person cares. No, that person that's run on ego actually don't care. The only thing they care about is their own self, fame, stats, what other people think about them, fitting in. That's right. That's all they care about. If you're going to have tough skin, you can't care what other people think about you. When you know you're right, you know you're right, and it doesn't care what anybody else says. Nobody else walks in your shoes. You walk in your shoes. You don't give a shit what other people say about you that don't know you. When you care about somebody, you care. When you have real care, you care about people you've never even met. You want them to have the same rights you have. You're not going to sit back and let somebody shit all over somebody in front of you. You're going to stick your nose in and stand up for them when you know that somebody's wronging somebody. It's as simple as that. But with that being said, I'm going to jump on out of here. I'll come back another time. I will be talking about this topic a little bit more, just because I think people need to understand power and greed absolutely corrupt the human mind, and all you truthers already know that. But you just keep leaving ego off that, don't you? When ego is the same as power and greed, it corrupts the human mind. You can't let yourself run on ego without becoming corrupt. If you're going to run on ego, then you constantly got to be checking yourself and readjusting your own behavior, or you will become like the very people you're complaining about. I watch it happen all the time. With that being said, I'm getting out of here, guys. Until the next one.